Good morning and welcome to my channel. My name is Shoshana and I help give guidance through the spiritual awakening and life-changing processes, emotional processes. And I think that this might be one of the most important videos that I've ever done. If you can grasp this concept, it is a life changer, and I really am asking for guidance to be able to bring this forth in a way that is understandable and comprehensible, because it is a very complex idea. But once you get it, it's very simple and it's a life changer, not only for understanding yourself and how you work and being able to get keys for your own rising and your own spiritual path, but also for understanding others and the world around you and how it works. And what I am going to be talking about is a little bit about archetypes, behavioral structures that we create, belief systems, and demons or jinns or dark entities, or you could call it our shadows, the places that we are not willing to look, and that have behavioral patterns in them that we are unaware of because we are not looking at them, or we are allowing them to run rapid. What is the word? There's a word there. To run on automatic mode without having conscious control over it. And so this whole video is coming up from an experience that I had yesterday with a friend of mine. We went to the hot springs, and whenever we're there, we always interact with other people and get into really deep conversation with people. And one thing that I noticed is that during the conversation, right, because we were talking about spiritual aspects and kind of connected to religion and things like that. And what I noticed is that the person that we were talking to, when he seemed to be pretty open, but every time he had a belief structure, a belief system that he built, and it was very rigid. It means that he had the regular answers to back up his beliefs and behaviors that he created on top of those beliefs to reinforce the belief, right? He believes that this is right and righteous, and then he created on top of that behaviors that that reinforce that belief, or behaviors that coincide or go along with the beliefs that he created. But if you create faulty beliefs, then those behavioral structures that you have created will have in them gaps, or will have in them falsities. And wherever you are behaving in according to a false belief, where you will be pushing up in the physical world, right? Because you've created these patterns of behavior that are out of alignment with cause and effect, out of alignment with divine order, out of alignment with divine truth. And anything that doesn't work with that belief, you push into your shadow so that you don't have to look at it, because you can't really explain it. So you just go with what you do believe, and you don't solve those things, right? So they get pushed into your subconscious, into places that you're not looking, into your shadows, the things that you're not dealing with, along with your traumas, along with anything else that you don't have the emotional or mental capacity to deal with. You push into there so that you don't have to deal with it, you don't have to look at it. And then anytime anything in the physical world comes in and touches one of those blind spots, one of those things that we're not dealing with, then we create behaviors to push against. So we were having this conversation, and every time that it came to an area that he could not answer, then he would change the subject and come at it from a different direction until he felt completely boxed in. And at some point, he just started lashing out, and without sense behind it, protecting his belief. And I'm going to put this all into a nice little package in a minute. And And at that point, there was a switching point in the conversation where the conversation didn't make sense, where you could not speak common sense with that person because he was busy protecting those beliefs. And when his regular avenues didn't work, then he became kind of like defensive and lashing out. And at that point, there was a tipping point in the conversation. And so my friend looks at me and says, "Did you understand what he said, why he said that?" And I did, not connected to the conversation. And I just said right out, I said, "Yeah, you said something that he couldn't deal with." And so he went into defensive mode, and he felt threatened. So he uh, uh, so he had to also like put you down. And that's because that was the pattern that I was seeing regardless of what was being said. And first of all, for me, it was coming a little bit out of my pushing my own boundaries, which is a good thing, being able to just say that flat as I see it. Yeah, you um he felt threatened, so he felt that he needed to lash out at you. But afterwards, let's say this morning, after you sleep on things and then you kind of see the patterns of them more clearly. And what I realized is that at that point, when the conversation quit making sense, at that point was a flipping point in the conversation. At that point, the conversation that we were having with this man quit being at the conscious level. We quit interacting with the man in a conscious way. And we started interacting at that point with his shadows. And what lives in the shadows? Monsters live in the shadows, right? Because wherever you have, and now we're going to get into the structural. So now I'm going to kind of explain about archetypes and structures of behavior and what happens in those shadows, why it's so important for us to open up our shadows and deal with our shadows. And also where we can recognize in others where the conversation isn't going anywhere. Because the minute that you get to that point where you're not dealing with the person anymore, with the rational person, from that point onward, we got to his limits of what he could rationally contain emotionally and mentally. He did not have the answers anymore. From that point, he got boxed in because he was sitting in false beliefs. And rather than checking his own belief system and saying, "Okay, wait a minute, I just have to put this fan on me. It's so hot here." Rather than check his belief system, we are so prone as humanity to get set in our beliefs, and anything that threatens our beliefs, we push against, because we have created our whole life around some kind of belief and then created structures of behavior on top of that belief to reinforce it, to back it up. And throughout life, as humans, we want to reinforce our beliefs. We like to be right, especially the ego really likes to be right. And whenever something comes in that threatens what we already believe to be true, and we don't have anything in that place, our ego is going to jump up and try to defend that belief at all costs. And when that belief is off, you get to a point when some conversations and some meetings that you have no defense, because it is already going into places that you haven't had worked out. And if it is a false belief, it will not stand in front of truth. It cannot stand. And most people will fight for their belief, whether it makes sense or not, and not be open and not be open to, wait a minute, they're saying something that I don't have the answer for. Let me go in. This is why I always say it's so important to stay malleable, because when you're trying to hold on to something and make it really rigid, you quit growing. And it also takes force to hold on to something when life is fluid and always changing and always expanding. So any truth that you have, if you set it in stone, it stops growing. Any truth that you have is going to have expansion. And any truth that is absolute truth, that is true, it will continue to flower and open up for you and will continue. Have you ever been on doing something and it's just so perfect that and aligned and working out beautifully, that every single thing that you do just works out perfectly, and it's just fluid and it just rolls and it just moves with perfect, like, synchronicity? That is when you are aligned. When you have a belief that you have to hold in place and it's very rigid and it's not flexible at all, then already you know that you're not growing. And not only that, there is effort in that. And if that belief is pushed at, it cracks, because belief, truth stands true and will open up in truth, will continue like a flower. It's life. It's continuous. And so most, including myself, I'm always finding more and more places to open, more and more places and you have to have an open mind for this. You have to be fluid. You have to be malleable. You have to be open to suggestion and open to hearing new ideas, even if it feels threatening to what you already believe. Because as children, we are taught so many things that we are taught are true before we even have any kind of reason to do self-consideration, to do self-judgment. So we're taught so many truths, and many times we take these truths as absolute, we put them into our belief system, and then we create behaviors, archetypal behaviors. Archetypes are like energetic templates of behavior. And there are, if you look into Carl Jung's archetypes, there are the atypical archetypes, which if you watch the old black and white movies, they always play, there's always the damsel in distress, which is an archetypal energetic behavior. And I think that there are like 12 main, and then there's all sorts of sub archetypes. And each of us contain in different weights all of these archetypes. That's how we interact, our archetypes, right? Because we are souls sitting in this structure, in this body. Within the ego sit these structures of behavior. This is how we can even interact with other people, because we have something that is common ground, which is these common energetic templates, these energetic behavioral templates. And I'm going to get further into this and go into demons sitting in the shadows. So wait for it. So we have these archetypal behaviors that we think are us. So by a lot of times we have resistance to this idea that I have structures of behavior. No, I'm an individual. I am unique. Nobody else is like me. But the only reason that you can see another and recognize their behavior is because it is within you. We have this ego. Within this ego, we have structures of behavior and many gradients and variants, and we have the mixture of these structures of behavior. So every single one of us is completely individual in that way, but we are also at the same time bound to these structures of behavior, bound to these archetypes. It cannot be different, because if we did not have them, we would not be able to communicate with others. We would not be able to interact. The only reason, right? Some people we interact better with because we have more overlaying archetypal behaviors. That means that we can see them more. We have more common ground in which to interact with them. And have you ever noticed that some people you just don't have that connection with? You can't make that. Even when you converse with them, it's like you're speaking completely different languages, and you're almost like blind to them, because there are areas in them that are not dominant behaviors within yourself. So they could be dominant in different archetypal behaviors than you are. So we create these belief systems, right? And I know that you are fluent in this, because otherwise I would not have shown up in your feed. So we create we create these beliefs, and many of them are subconscious. We're not even aware. Many of them serve us well, and many of them don't. But we don't even realize what these behaviors are, what these beliefs are, because these beliefs are so subtle. These beliefs are, what is my place in the world? And they are influenced not only by our parents and school, but the society that we live in, the country that we live in, the area that we were raised in. If somebody was raised in the boondocks, they're going to have those behaviors, and they were raised in the mountains. They're going to have structures of behavior or beliefs that come from that area. Or if somebody was born urban, then they are going to have the urban nature instilled within them without even knowing that is what is running their lives. So even if you take somebody out of the city and put them in the country, they're still going to be running on old programming. And that is something that slowly is changed. And the way that it is changed is by us being pushed to the limit of our belief, right? Our belief being tested, right? So as we're going through life and we come into situations, and we have these structures of behavior that we have created upon these beliefs, right? We believe that a good person always gives to others, right? So we create the structure of behavior that is giving and giving. And many times it can be, because there's truth in that, but in many times we can believe that we have to overgive. And so there's always variance in there, right? So if we believe that we always have to be giving, but it's depleting us, then maybe part of that is in the truth, but we're not looking at the part that is depleting us. We're not looking at it. Somewhere in our shadows, it's work that we have to do, emotional, spiritual work, that we have to understand why we're always depleting ourselves and overgiving, and what is that sitting on. So it's an overlaying. There's a belief that a giving person is a good person. But then there is also some kind of belief in there that I am not deserving. And so I have to overcompensate. And so then your belief becomes warped with your shadow belief. So then it may be a good thing to give and to see another. But when it is warped with a other belief that is in your shadow, then it will deplete you, and it will become obsolete, because they cancel each other out. So even if you're giving and you are not finding the balance in that, then you will be getting back to your life, the reflection of something will be off. You will be getting negative results from the world. So, and then you may say, oh, giving is not a good thing because I'm giving and I'm always depleting. And then you say, okay, I'm not going to give anymore. So that would be a cop-out on not doing the work, right? So you have to find that balance. and always be open to um, changing your belief system, or even finding the belief, so that we can decide if that belief serves us or doesn't serve us, or what we actually do believe. Because as we're children, there's so many beliefs put in there that, if we're born in a family that is poor, considered poor, and there was always this fear of lack. There's not enough in the world. And as I've grown consciously, I have uncovered many aspects of that belief, and it's so ingrained in my being that I'm still finding little roots of that and pulling that out, because I know for a fact that there is only abundance. There is no lack in the world. And I know for a fact that the way that you believe is, and what you put outwardly, is what you receive back. So if you are in a belief of abundance, you are going to see abundance in your life. And if you are in a feeling of lack, you are already living that lack. So regardless of your outside circumstances, you are perceiving lack, which makes, and it can't be different, which will create lack in your world. So if you are perceiving abundance, so if you are, let's say you're perceiving lack, let's start from a push-off point. When you can start changing your perspective and start seeing all of the abundance, it doesn't have to be in money, especially if you have like this conflict with money, or something in you that is that irks you when it comes to money, right? Because if you have this feeling that money is bad, or some kind of inner you're holding yourself apart from it. You are feeling, I don't have money, I have to get money. If you are even going through, I want money, you are holding yourself in a place, I don't have, therefore I want. And so you're holding yourself apart from it. So a lot of times money is a big trigger. So you don't have to start with money, because abundance, pure abundance, is an energy. And money is just a avenue of that abundance. So when you feel abundant, then money will be a byproduct of that. So you don't have to focus on the money, you focus on feeling abundant. And one of the easiest ways to focus on abundance is, first of all, to be an appreciation of everything that you do have. If you are watching this video, you have a computer and you have internet, or you have a phone with internet. You are connected. You have freedom to watch somebody that is living maybe all the way across the world from you. You have the capacity to understand these concepts. You are already in abundance. And nature is another way. If you watch the plants grow, they are taking from the earth and growing this beautiful plant, making their pure alchemy, making something completely different. They're taking the nutrients and everything that's just pure abundance. And it is free abundance, free energy. The sun, the moon, those things are free. The things that we enjoy the most in life, you cannot buy. Love, nature, connection, satisfaction of having a very deep, eye-opening understanding. Those things are free in life. So I want to get back to the point, because I can see that we're already getting quite a ways along, and I want to make this point. So when we create a belief and we create behaviors upon that belief, and everything that doesn't fit with the belief, we throw into the subconscious. Now, the subconscious are our shadows, and you could say, and then whenever our light, let's say the conscious part of us, our light part, can't deal anymore, we get boxed in, we don't have what to back up our belief with anymore. And we are rigid about that belief and trying to hold it in place and very determined to be right. Our belief is right. We have based our whole life on this. And there's no flexibility in there, because let's say if our belief is threatened, if it's threatened, that means that there are aspects that I cannot explain. And if I'm trying to hold my belief in place because something is coming at it that I can't explain, this is an opportunity for growth. Wait a minute, maybe my belief is off. If I can't explain that, then maybe I should open my eyes here and see what that is. Maybe my belief is off, or maybe there's an opportunity here for me to expand my belief. Whereas if you are set on holding your belief in place because you identify with your belief is who you are, then at that point, when you're pushed beyond your limits emotionally or mentally, and your belief is threatened, you will go into the shadows and you will start bringing out, you could say, demons or whatever you're possessed with, right? Because in the Bible times, demons were living, they are the entities that are living in your shadows. You could call them jinns or genies. They are the entities that live in your shadows. You could see them like leeches. You could see them like bodiless forms that only get representation in the physical world through a host. And where can they latch on? That you could see them as parasites. And where do they latch on to their hosts? In the darkness, in the places that you're not looking, in the places that you're not standing up and taking the reins. Then you will have parasital entities in there latched onto you. And the minute your light cannot deal with reality anymore, then you allow these entities to come forth. And that is the tipping point in conversations, when all of a sudden the conversation will get nasty, or it doesn't make sense anymore, or somebody will just spew out anger at you, or spew out even becoming victims. Oh no, poor me, stop. Which is also can be a form of violence. Because if you are speaking with somebody and interacting with somebody, and all of a sudden they go into victim mode, they're shutting you. It's like shutting you out. It's like, I'm not taking any, I am completely, boom, shutting you out. And it is a repellent. And these shadow aspects, the shadows of your archetypes, there's so many different ways to look at this. You could look at this as demons, as jinns, as parasites on your being, on your energetic spirit being, that are living in your shadows. And if you are not taking reins of your shadows, and you have these shadows that are managing your behaviors, right? You're in the light and you're behaving and you're really nice and you have control over it. But the minute something touches a touchy area that you not willing to deal with, it could be traumas, it could be anything that you are not willing, because it's too hard to deal with, is a cop-out. And then you are allowing these dark entities to take over in those places. And I know that many of you are like cringing, going, oh, is this dark? What is this talk about dark entities? But you could look at it as shadow aspects of self, places that you are not aware of, that once something pushes at your boundaries, and it is a place that you are not willing to go yet, then there are all these these creations, these behavioral creations, these behaviors that you have created or haven't created that are on automatic, that start spewing out of you to stop what you feel to be a threat at your belief system, a threat at who you are. So when you begin to start feeling threatened, then all of a sudden, all of these shadow aspects start spewing through you to stop the progression of whatever it is that you feel threatened by, which can be just a very gentle conversation that is touching you in a place that you haven't done the work yet, and so you feel threatened. And then you may perceive the world as a threatening place. Even if, for instance, like the conversation that we were having yesterday was just a nice conversation, and my friend was bringing up, he was a genius, was bringing up points that contradicted the belief of the person that we were having this conversation with, and he could not deal with that. And as an observer from the side, I could clearly see that he was not understanding. He didn't have the capacity within his the rigid beliefs that he was holding on to. He did not have the capacity or open-mindedness to even comprehend or perceive what my friend was saying to him, and he became defensive. He became lashing and pushing out, and started like things that didn't make sense just started putting him down, and because he felt like he was being put down, but he wasn't. And as an observer, I was able to see it so clearly. It was just like, and at that point, when my friend turned to me and said, "Did you understand why he just said that?" And what I understood was that he felt threatened, and so he felt like he needed to lash back. At that point, I recognize now was the tipping point in the conversation, where at that point, it's abandonship. You're not speaking with the irrational person anymore. You're speaking with his shadows. You're speaking with his demons. It's not making sense. The conversation at that point did not make sense from that point onward. It kind of turned into him trying to prove his point, which his point was unprovable because it had all sorts of flaws in it. But he was trying to prove it through brute force and defensiveness, and well, that's just the way it is, not even having to back up what he was believing at that point. It did not make sense. And any kind of logic that was spoken at him was not, there was no opening for it. He was not capable of perceiving or even seeing it. So at that point, it's abandonship. At that point, there is no point in the conversation. You are interacting with this person's shadows. You are interacting with their demons. Their conversation at that point onward doesn't have to make sense because you already got to the limits of their capacity. They're unable, and he felt boxed in because his beliefs were off. And every time he tried to prove something with his regular routes of proving, it met with a truth that contradicted it. And so at that point forward, there was no purpose in that conversation. Being able to recognize that, not only recognize those tipping points within myself because they make you feel really uncomfortable. Because I could see in this guy at that point that he was all stirred up. And at that point, you weren't talking to the man anymore. You were talking with the man's shadows, and the man's shadows weren't making sense and didn't have to make sense. And they were lashing out, and they were just in pure brute force protecting this belief because the shadows protected themselves also. You could see them as the shadows are living. You have these entities living in your shadows, in the shadow aspects of your archetype, which are your weaknesses, right? Because if you're standing up in your archetypal behavior, and look up archetypes because it's such a broad subject. And to better understand this, if you understand that there are archetypes and that which are structures of behavior, and there are the light sides of the archetypes, and there are the darkness of the archetypes. And if you are not standing up in your strength and taking over the reign of your archetype, then you will be falling into the shadow aspects of that archetype, which are the blind behaviors, which are, if you are not standing up in your power, then you become a victim of your own subconscious, of your shadows of the places. And then you are not in full, first of all, you're not fully enjoying life, and you're not in full control over your life. And so if you can learn to recognize these tipping points, not only in yourself, but also in others, or not only in others, I should say, but also in yourself, the point where you're pushed beyond your capability of your defenses, or the capability of what you can. It doesn't even have to be defensive, because It's in any conversation. Have you ever met people, I always use this example, that are completely explosive, like you barely speak a few words and they're so sensitive that within a few seconds they explode on you and it doesn't make sense. So that is when you have reached their emotional, mental capacity. They have, from there, they don't have defenses. And so you go straight into their subconscious, which are those subconscious behaviors that they don't even see that they are doing. So it's in the shadows. So this is such an important thing to understand. I actually, as I was doing meditation, it started coming through, and so it's kind of like playing with somebody else's demons. I just want to read over this, make sure I got everything. So yeah, the minute that you push past their capacity, you're already interacting with their demons. You're interacting with their shadows and not with them. So there is no point anymore except for having compassion. But that is also healing, because once you get to a pushing point, once you get to one of those switch points in a conversation, it means that that person has been pushed to their boundary. That means that now they're being pushed a little bit further out of their boundary. You're helping them become flexible, or helping them just, like the man that we were speaking with yesterday. He was not flexible at all. His belief system was, so he went home thinking that he was right. And I'm sure that he had a lot of things that he didn't quite understand, and that might come back and haunt him from within the conversation. So you could see it as kind of like a person being possessed when their shadows and really okay, lashing out. People create beliefs and the structures of behaviors to play these beliefs out through the physical world. If the behaviors are sitting on false beliefs, then they will be tested again and again and throughout stimulation of life, because they are out of sync with the divine. They will be clunky and meet opposition again and again. Recognize it. So if you can recognize this gives you keys for life. So I am sending you guys so much love. Thank you for being with me. And if you would like to meet with me one-on-one and kind of look at your life and get some perspective and acceptance and understanding, then you can schedule a one-on-one meeting with me. My contact information is in my website below. Sending you so much love and strength. Thank you.